Alrighty, well, would you like to murder our team? Hey, you know what? Pull up over here. Therapeutic sessions with Mr. Atif. Now, Atif is gonna give you some very nice directions. Now come here, I want you to sit in this bed corner right here. Now, how's work today? Give me the wrong answer, I'll shoot you in your fucking head and I won't think twice. How's work today?
Relaxing.
Okay, alrighty, now. When you speak of guilt, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Slavery.
That is a very broad definition, sir. Now, as you can see in these new times, slavery has been abolished. Fortunately.
Well, it was more so of the allegations that were put on Donald Trump.
Well, as you can see, Donald Trump is a very nice businessman, and he strived to be a man of character and great integrity. And
I quite frankly support this allegation.
Now, in case of allegations, are you referring to Jaden?
Yeah.
Okay, now, when it comes to these certain allegations against this alleged whore,
Yeah.
what is the first thing that comes to your head? Are there any thoughts that you have on this man named Mr. Fahim? I believe his aim was a very big benefactor in the assault against Hitler and his armies.
Well, you see, as soon as
Napoleon.
Napoleon,
Fahim's dad was actually one of the 4 commanders of Hitler's army, and Fahim stood against him. Now,
well,
him standing against his father, that is pretty okay.
quite
However,
literally,
on the other
my
side,
friend,
we
my
had
friend,
that character from
my
One
friend.
Piece called Big Mom, which is actually Fahim's mom. And
my friend,
she wanted all the cakes and the digs, and she was like,
my friend,
"Any dig? Go ahead!" And
my
Hitler
friend,
was like, "Holy shit!"
my
unleashed
friend,
the atomic bomb, and
my
they literally
friend.
threw Fahim's mom from 500 feet in the house. That's not even funny. That's literally not funny.
I need to tell you the history before we move on to anything particular. Okay, so when Wall Maria broke down, Napoleon and his army took over the southern gate,
What
and
the fuck?
that is when Hitler
So I think you're talking about
reached.
the wrong story. Levi Amjad.
No, trust me. The second Wall Maria fell, Napoleon and his
Fahim
army
was an
they
Ackerman,
pushed
right?
in, and that is quite frankly when the sudden attacks happened. So yeah, they succumbed to many different types of injuries. They had frostbite and whatnot.
Did you say they had
And that
prosthetics on their
that
comics?
is
What?
that is where the Germans, they reigned supreme in that factor because they were well prepared for the cold, and so what they did was they captured the French and they threw them in gas chambers.
Wait, sir,
And then
sir. I think you're getting your story twisted.
one of the prisoners
Jews
of
were-
war. No, one of the prisoners of war. His name was Chaudhry
Sir,
Amjad. He
I
was
believe I heard of his stories. I heard he
Right.
literally raped Hitler's fucking pet dog at one point.
he was a prisoner of war by the
Now,
Germans.
wait, sir, I have a question because according to the Theoclimatic Genesis scale and the Nigerian ancestral decline, pretty much it states that the German thermostasis temperature was usually in a cordialence to less than 35 degrees. Now, when you say cold, what is your reference to cold and this cold weather? Because as you can see, we have this Nazi over here. You see that Canadian Nazi flag.
Yeah. So, speaking
is that
of
the armor that they typically wore?
Yeah, so in Canada, the first epidermis of the benefactorial ancestry.
Oh, the benefactorial court allegiance plane. Yes,
Right.
I've heard of this treaty before. However, I do believe that all according treaties and portions were
Right. I just
documented
wanna,
signed off by Fahim's
if you
uncle,
let me finish.
Okay.
The prisoner of war that I mentioned earlier, Chaudhry Amjad, he ripped up the peace treaty that Hitler, provided, and when he did so, Hitler was like, that wasn't the peace treaty, Squidward, that was a copy of the peace treaty. And
Oh,
then,
I do believe that this was in one of the chronicles.
while being a prisoner, and he got enslaved and was forced to join the army, but then he exiled himself, and he ended up as a stray slave in Pakistan, which is where he then had a child named Fahim.
Who's the mother of this alleged child?
That history is gone. It is lost within the telltales of the series of The Wolves Among Us. However, we don't know much about the Genesis himself, Fahim.
Sir. I think you were accordingly proclamating between the thin lines. Now, there's a claymore in front of you. Now, I think before we talk about the genesis in which Fahim's pregnancy came into plan, I believe we do need to talk about this thing called the AIM and why it is delegated and held in such high proclamation and demand. Now, you see, before AIM, there's something called a game, and in this game, there's one very important factor. Now, the factor would come into multiple disciples, and in one of which would be something called plus. Now, plus was something that many people owned except for one man, and this man being the pregnant Fahim. Now, as you can see by numerous stories told in the past, hey, would you like to pull up? I can't! And pretty much it just stems in the moral compass accordingly, in the sense that this man, Mr. Flaring Sonic, Mr. Fahim Chowdhury Amjad Abhijit, has refused to sign the treaty in which for $15 he could get plus the USSR, which is actually still alive, controlled by Fidel Castro in Wuhan. Now, Wuhan had the pleasure of testing with this disgusting, absolute vermin of a species of man. What they did inside their university, they dissected this man's vaginas, and they literally found fart chemicals. Now, what they did with these chemicals, pretty much, they have extracted them. Now, once you have an extraction of a thermal allegiance, cord allegiance, you know, as you can see in Last of Us, they used monkeys as a test subject. They distributed it around the world with the help of Winnie the Pooh, who is the president of China. And as a fair result, Lee, the commander in one of the barracks of Winnie the Pooh.
Listen, I want to explain this to you and I want to talk much about it.
Okay.
So, moving back to Chaudhry Amjad, right? There was this dire situation that took place that was never addressed. So as soon as Wall Maria fell, Napoleon and his army, they broke in and took Chaudhry Amjad hostage. He became a prisoner of war in the war that lasted 45 years, in which Napoleon then died and passed his legacy to Arslan Hussein. And Arslan Hussein was an evil. He was an evil king. He was an evil French king that reveled. Yes, he was known as the 2-inch king.
So I believe what we have named him in the Genesis, according to the Eren Yeager family, the Beast Titan, also known as the 2-centimeter defeater. Now, when you think of this into Cord Allegiance, his build is very similar to that of the Beast Titan, except for the muscle taken completely away and replaced with fucking muck and blobness. Now, this man was very hostile, as the fact that he decided to throw away his educational career following Zombie's footsteps and literally started inserting his semen into donuts. Now, when you think of this as matureness, you think matureness as being evolution. As humans mature, we pretty much evolve. We become a species that is what I would like to assume that of higher knowledge and of a higher understanding than that of beforehand. Now, when you think of evolution, you don't think of working in a fucking donut shop, but I mean, in this case, I believe maturing and evolving has resulted in cream pieing donuts and selling them to other customers. Now, as you can see, from thermological studies, it has been shown that Arslan Hussein is the 6th natural wonder of the world. He's literally the 10,000-pound man. He's the man who creams the donuts, and there's actually a bounty out for him right now. If you find him, please send us his whereabouts. There's a $10 prize.